fabrics that look like they've been printed on top of. What would these be good for?
These are actually, rayon is great for clothing because of the drape. It really gives that nice look to a skirt, to a dress, to shirts.
With the drapeability, would we use it for draperies in a home?
It's a little soft and it doesn't have the same body on a drapery as it does hanging off the human body.
Kind of hangs flat. Now these are printed on top. Does rayon take dyes easily?
Actually, rayon does take dyes because it is made out of wood pulp. It is similar to a natural fiber in that it does hold your pigments extremely well.
Rayon is highly absorbent. It's soft and known for its draping ability. It's easy to dye and will scorch if you iron it, but will not melt. Rayon is affected by ultraviolet light exposure. On the very good side, it is biodegradable. Most microfibers are made from a combination of polyester and nylon. They were developed in the late 1960s and 70s and are unique in that they are very fine. A microfiber is less than 10 micrometers in diameter. Microfiber filaments weigh less than 1 gram per 9,000 meter length.
This North Face microfiber piece is a very tight nylon weave of a very small nylon fibers, and it's woven so tightly it blocks the wind. So it's a great piece to wear to block the wind, and then you could wear something that's much looser. For instance, this icebreaker merino wool piece underneath.
A cross-section of a microfiber looks like a star shape. The spaces in the fiber make it especially good at collecting and absorbing liquids or dust and trapping it in the fibers. Microfibers can also be made in shapes that resist moisture or reflect light to mimic the sheen of silk. The next fabric we're going to talk about are acrylic fabrics. And Chris, you've got two completely different fabrics here. Are both of these acrylic?
These are both 100% acrylic.
Really?
We use these for indoor-outdoor a lot in the interior design field because they actually are stain and soil resistant. They don't absorb moisture. They're naturally mildew and mold resistant. So you can put them outside and keep them outside, and when it rains, you're not going to be completely affected.
Oh,
they won't rot.
That's fantastic. I mean, this has a great hand on it. A lot of the outdoor fabrics that I've seen are almost shiny and hard, but this feels soft.
Acrylic is used a ton in apparel.
Oh, okay.
This form that we're looking at is made to resemble cotton. It can resemble any fiber, and we mostly use acrylic in our apparel to resemble wool. It's like our false wool. We see it a lot in sweaters.
Is it softer than wool? Is that why we use acrylic?
It's a lot softer, and it doesn't have the barbs that wool does in the fiber, so it doesn't catch on your skin, and there's very little irritation.
Once the fibers are collected, they are usually spun to create continuous yards of yarn. Fibers can be dyed before or after spinning. They are spun to create specific textures. Staple fibers are spun before they are used to make fabric. Filament fibers can be used unspun. The spin or amount of twist in the yarn can affect the texture and drape of the finished fabric. Single yarns can be plied to make thicker yarns. Fabrics can be constructed by weaving, knitting, or felting. The different methods can produce fabrics with different qualities, like drape, texture, or transparency. Woven fabrics are usually only stretchy on the bias or diagonal grain. They are woven on regular loom and include basket weaves, twill, herringbone, and satin weaves. A plain weave alternates warp yarns that run vertically on the loom with weft yarns that run left to right. Weaving can create stripes, plaids, and other small geometric patterns by alternating colored yarns. The jacquard weave is woven on a jacquard loom to create intricate patterns, including damask and brocades. A knit fabric is made from interlocking loops of yarn. The fabrics are inherently stretchy, so they are often used for clothing. Fabric is also made from fibers, not from yarn. Felting is a method of tangling the fibers together to make a whole fabric. The structure of the fibers interlocking with one another hold the fabric together. Wool and acrylic are the best fibers for felting. There are other kinds of fabrics that do not fall into a category. Leather, made from processed animal hides, vinyl, or PVC sheet plastics. Non-woven or fiber web fabrics, like interfacing. Tyvek is used for construction and mailing envelopes. There are many ways to add color and pattern to fabrics. Resist printing is when a pattern is created using materials that resist dyes, like wax or paste. A dye or pigment is put on top of the resist pattern. When the extra dye and resist are removed, a pattern of dyed and undyed fabric is left. Batik is a type of resist printing. Screen printing is the most common printing method used in the United States, commonly done on a machine that feeds large lengths of fabric around rolls and applies colors through a patterned screen. It can also be done using individual flat screens that the pigments are pulled or squeezed through. Digital printing uses computers to print pigments or dyes onto the surface of a fabric. Similar process to printing with your computer printer. It can use dyes or pigments to create the patterns, but the fabric must be treated in order to set the color. Block printing is the rarest type of printing in modern times. Pigments applied by hand with blocks like large carved stamps. Each repetition of the pattern is done by hand, so it is labor and time intensive. Resist dyeing is known as shibori, or less formally, tie-dyeing. Fabric is manipulated by folding, stretching, clamping, binding, or twisting, and then the dye is added. The areas of the fabric that were bound or clamped would resist and remain undyed, creating a pattern of dyed and undyed spaces. Embroidery or applique is when threads or small pieces of fabrics are stitched onto the fabric, creating a pattern. Ikat yarns are dyed in solid colors or patterns before they are woven.